Welcome to the Behind the Girl Boss podcast, where every woman's journey takes center stage. Join us in this safe space as we explore the ins and outs of business, career, mental health, the music industry, and more. Whether you're a go-getter or a dream chaser, we've got stories for you. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok for an exclusive backstage pass. Get ready to be inspired, empowered, and entertained. Welcome to the ride. Hey everyone, what's up and welcome back to the podcast. So today we have two guests and we have Hilary and Tiffany. So hi guys.
Hi.
You want to start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do?
Yeah, I'm Tiffany, and I am one of the co-owners of Park Hill Studios, and I'm also the owner of Tiffany Lynn Photography. I've been a photographer professionally for about 7 years now, and yeah.
I'm Hilary. I am one of the co-founders and owner of Park Hill Studios as well. And I'm a wedding floral and event designer. Been doing that for almost a decade, working my way up to 10 years, very close. And yeah, we've been at this business together for nearly 6 years now.
I love that. So excited to dive into this and know more about you. So Hilary, to start off, what drew you into like floral and event design and how did you kind of find your unique style in this?
For sure. So I actually knew I always wanted to work in weddings since I was 11 and
Okay.
in fashion design. And so I thought when I went to design school, that I was going to be going into bridal design, designing dresses and all that. And I studied in England and it was a very intense school, very much involved in like the high-end fashion. And it was very Devil Wears Prada. I didn't like what I saw. The community was not welcoming and it was very kind of cutthroat and catty. And I was like, this isn't for me. And so I took some time. I actually took a job for Emirates Airline, moved to Dubai and started traveling. And that's where I noticed flowers in every culture, used to celebrate, used to bring people joy. And I was like, I could probably do that with weddings. And so I moved back to Canada, took a course, learning how to work with flowers and design, and fell in love with it. And that was really the beginning point for me in terms of developing my style. It's just been practice and growth over the years. I think you gravitate to different designers that come before you, just
Yeah.
as fashion. So there's some people that I've followed from the US, from Australia that I really loved that I think my style kind of emulates.
Yeah, I love that. And then for Tiffany, how did you kind of get started in photography and what inspired you to pursue it as a career?
Yeah, so I've actually, similar to Hillary, I've kind of always had like an interest in photography as like a kid. That was like, I always wanted a camera. So like my grade graduation, I got a little digital camera. And then I ended up actually going to the university for social work. So kind of straight away from photography professionally for a
Mhm.
little. Don't really know why, but eventually found my way back to it, which is really awesome. I always kind of did it as like a side job or a hobby, even throughout university. And then I worked in the field as a social worker for about 2.5 years. And then I just kind of decided I really want to see where the photography thing can go.
Mhm.
And I ended up doing that part-time as well, like professionally part-time. And then in 2020, I just made the switch to just full-time.
Which was obviously a great year to do it, given what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
2018, I believe it was, I started doing photography professionally. And then 2020 is when I completely 100% was only doing photography. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And can you tell us a little bit about Park Hill Studios and how it came to be and how you both kind of got the idea to do something together?
Yeah, for sure. So we met, was it 2018, kind of near the end of the year.
Mhm.
I was actually looking for a studio space. I had just moved to Cambridge
Okay.
and never in this community. I was more GTA Toronto my whole life growing up that side. And I moved here and was like, oh my gosh, my life's over. Like, I don't know anyone and I need a place to put my business. And that's actually how I met Tiffany. She was in the same building as me. And that's how we connected. And then we basically like both needed to have a space where we could do our creative projects. So Tiffany was doing like family shoots and other creative photography stuff. And I wanted to teach workshops for my floral people. So people that wanted to do, centerpieces or wreaths for the
Mhm.
holidays, stuff like that. And so we're like, well, why don't we just like share the rent, share the space and see how that goes? And it turns out there was a lot of more people that also needed a space. So
Mhm.
that's sort of how it started. And we were always driving if we need to do photo shoots or things to like Toronto downtown, where all of, Mint Room, other studios there that are quite well known. And for us, it's like 2 hours to get down there.
That's long.
Yeah, with the traffic, and there's always traffic,
Yeah.
parking and all the stuff and whatever. And so turns out a lot of people also didn't want to drive downtown Toronto.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's what started off as just a project for ourselves became really a big community project. And now we rent it to whoever, wants to rent it. And we really take into consideration what other people think of the space and what they want to see in the space. And it's really just become a big community project. As much as it's our space, we want it to be everybody else as well.
Yeah. And from starting this, what are some lessons you've learned as business owners that if anyone is listening and wants to be a business owner as well, what have you learned so far?
I feel like resilience, like honestly, we have moved in the last 5, 6 years, like 3 or 4 times,
Okay.
different locations, stuff that has worked, stuff that hasn't worked, and like really just being okay with saying like, you know what, this isn't working, this isn't the right location. Maybe it's because the parking wasn't great. Maybe it's because there's no elevator and you're on the 3rd floor. So just being able to push through and keep going.
Yeah.
Sometimes it feels like you're, running uphill a little, but now we're with the experience over the last, 5, 6 years that we've learned, we're sitting in one of our spaces right now, our most popular one called Melrose. And this has really become such a home for our community and especially for photographers in our area.
The background right now is obviously beautiful. How often do you change it up?
Yeah. So actually usually about twice a year, but the biggest
Okay.
change is always in January. We'll do a big refresh. Again, we're always taking into consideration what feedback we're getting, what would the people see in the space, and then also just to make sure that the furniture is being updated. And also we get a lot of people, myself included, as I'm a photographer, that come and shoot here all the time. And we don't want it to just stay the same all the time because we want it to feel fun and fresh. So,
and often too, it's the same families coming back. As a photographer, you usually have like your core people that is doing family sessions for, holiday photos for, and whatnot, milestone moments. And you don't want the decor to always be the same.
Yeah. So usually every January, Hilary and I will kind of we'll shut the studio down for a couple days and do a full refresh. Also just paint gets scuffed, things like that. So we'll touch everything up that needs to be touched up, get rid of old furniture and old decor, bring some new stuff in. And then in the spring sometimes, or kind of like midsummer, we'll maybe do another little touch up or a little freshening.
Do an accent wall or something, just to bring something new to one of the spaces. We have 4 spaces now. And so kind of rotate refreshes. So they're not all at the same time as well, to spread them out over the year, make it more exciting.
Yeah. Are they all different aesthetics, your places?
Yeah. And they all kind of serve a bit of a different purpose as well. So this one is just mostly very white and airy light. And then we have another one on our 1st floor called Casa. And that one is very Mexico Bali inspired. So we have a bed in there. It's a little bit more moody. There's lots of lime wash and things like that. And then in our brand new studio, we have 2 upstairs. So we have our Soho room, which is about 500, 600 square feet. And it's all whited out. And that's mostly for product and branding photography. So we have backdrops in there and everything kind of props and stuff like that. Everything for more branding style. And then we have Dolcetto, which is it's a photo studio, but it's also an event space. So it's about 5,000 square feet. So people can host baby showers, bridal showers, weddings, really anything that they want. We've had lots of birthday parties in there the last couple of weeks. So,
which was really another need that we saw in our area. There or that you could really rent besides a community hall, probably needed to be updated 20 years ago and never was. Or you're going to a very expensive venue to rent a space. And, people right now, they just want a nice space that's not maybe their home to host and not cost them an arm and a leg. So that's why we ended up opening that one.
Yeah. And how did you kind of decide what pricing to price your things at? Is it an hourly price?
Yeah, so it is hourly. We definitely have priced it to be fair in the market of what we're seeing between other studios in Toronto, in Burlington, Hamilton, kind of across the board. So we want it to be, competitive in that market as well. And then they differ from each other based on the size. So our smallest studios Soho and Casa start at 75 an hour, and you can book with just 1 hour, which is great. And then we also have Melrose, which is 95 an hour. And then Dolcetto, which is our biggest one at almost 5,000 square feet, is 125 an hour for photography.
Awesome. Love that. So how do you both kind of balance your separate businesses along with like your business together? Like, is it hard to maintain both?
It's definitely, we're starting to get the hang of it now.
Yeah.
I think
Mhm.
we finally
That's
have
why I was
found-
laughing. I was
Yeah.
like, well,
it definitely can be a bit tricky.
Yeah.
But I think we've started to kind of get into the flow of it. We also now do actually have a few people on our team that help us out immensely. We
Okay.
could not without them.
Yeah.
In the very beginning, you know, we were doing everything. I was cleaning the studios, you know, we were doing all the emails, we were doing all the everything, the marketing, the Instagram, all that. Now we've kind of started to have people help us out with that kind of stuff, which is really awesome. We have a really great team of all ladies, which is kind of nice. So a
Love
girl
that.
boss team. Yeah. So they've honestly helped us out so much. Yeah. So that's been really helpful. So that's helped. And then just really setting and scheduling time in. So that's one thing that Hilary and I have now started to do. We're like, okay, on this date, we're having a meeting and like, we're gonna, you know, we're meeting about this sort of thing. Cause we are business partners, but we're also friends. So we talk all the time. And sometimes, you know, we all of a sudden start talking about all this personal stuff and we're like, okay, let's reel it back in.
Back to business. Yeah.
Yeah.
business.
So we find now that we have, you know, more of a structure, it's become a
Yeah.
lot for sure.
Yeah. And being friends and also business partners, how do you kind of deal with if there's ever like different views of opinions or like different wants or needs in the business? Like, how do you deal with those type of things?
Yeah, I think like it can definitely be a tricky dynamic. I know like friends and business doesn't always mix, certainly not for everybody. Honestly, from the beginning, Tiffany and I have always had really good open communication.
Yeah.
And we will say the hard stuff like
Mhm.
upfront. We're just saying, like, you know, at the end of the day, none of this is personal. This is my opinion from my experience, which is different from yours. And if we don't agree on it, let's talk about it and we'll find a place and align and hopefully make the right decision. And if we don't, we can always try something else.
And I
Yeah.
think we really value each other's opinions. So
Yeah.
I would say that we don't really disagree very often, but if anything, it's more like, you know, from a photography perspective, I
Yeah.
think this is going to be better. Maybe he'll
Yeah.
make a question on something. And I'm like,
Mhm.
if I'm like a photographer, like I wouldn't really like that.
Mhm.
And then same with like the installations
Installations,
where
yeah.
like Hilary will kind of spearhead those. And it's the same thing. Like I kind of just let her take the lead on that because I know
Yeah.
it's best. So
Yeah, and I'll constantly bounce back and say like, okay, I'm thinking of this for an installation,
Yeah.
but how is that going to shoot? Because I don't have the eye the way she does for like the lighting, the, you know, depth and of the photo and all of that. So that we really do lean on each other for different skills, which has been obviously super helpful.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Were there any like unexpected challenges you faced in co-owning a creative space?
I think like the constant challenge is always what are we going to be doing next? You know, so keeping installations fresh, keeping our decor and our aesthetic constantly updated and fresh. And there's always, you know, you go down the Pinterest rabbit holes all the time, right? And like looking at different ideas. And you know, you can only pick one aesthetic for one season, right? And so that I find that is hard. I don't know about you, Tiff.
No, I would agree with that. I think it's always just knowing what is around the corner and how to expand and grow our business because it is so easy. And I think now we've really gotten in the habit of changing things up. But I think for a while we kind of were like, oh, you know, things are really slow. Why are things slow? It's like, oh, well, we haven't done an installation in a while. You know, we haven't changed up furniture in a while. So since we've gotten better at doing that, I think it's definitely helped a lot.
Yeah.
It is easy to just like stay stagnant for sure.
Yeah. And what has your experience been like as like female entrepreneurs in the creative space? Because like I feel like there's a lot more females now, but like as being female business owners, sometimes we're not taken as seriously. How has that been for you?
Yeah, I think it's been really good. Certainly from the perspective of our community that we've built, it's been super positive and super supportive. I think the wedding industry, because we both are in that industry, a lot of the photographers that come into our space also work in weddings. Not all of them, but a lot of them do. And so the industry of the wedding world is, I think, 80% female. So having that connection already has been super helpful. And then on the flip, like honestly, sometimes in business, from that side of things, when we're dealing with, you know, lease negotiations or just like other business back-ended tasks. Sometimes that has proposed to be a little bit more difficult because you're not always taken as serious. And so we've had to really like hone our own skill, the way we talk, the way we, respond to things professionally, and making sure that we are coming across as, business professionals and creatives in the industry.
And how do you kind of like avoid burnout as well? Because I feel like having your own businesses, owning this, like how do you kind of shut off sometimes and make sure that you take time for yourself and to just like do nothing?
Yeah, I think that's something that we're both definitely working on right now.
It's hard.
It is hard. And because we both run our own businesses as well, sometimes it does feel like we're on the clock 24/7. But
Yeah.
I think both of us, and like Hilary is getting really good at telling me when to say no.
Yeah.
I definitely have a hard time saying no. And Hill definitely does too. But I think she's starting to, it's just, I think comes with age and maturity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coming in, like, we've seen how hard we've worked. We've looked back on it now after this amount of time, and it's like, okay, we have now got to the place where we're not, constantly running, constantly hoping that we can afford to pay our bills and like all of that, right?
Yeah.
We've built the business up enough where we can take a breath, and it's so important. So like some things that I've started to do is I will have one day between both of my companies, one day a week. It's usually Mondays or Sundays, and I will not do work on that day. I will not do work. I will not answer my phone. I will not answer emails. I will not log on. That day is for personal time. And just having that one day to just exhale has already made such a difference. And I find those little boundaries that you have to put in place to like keep yourself from burning out, because it is real. It's really hard.
Yeah, it is, especially when your businesses, and like I said, each of us have two, become like in a way, right? And it's like you're like spending so long like, fostering it and making sure it grows into this like big wonderful thing that it's hard to just step away sometimes.
Well, and that is too why I think we're just so thankful that we have finally a team that's in with these. And that is probably one of the hardest steps to take, is to trust other people with your business. So now that we have a really amazing team behind us that does, social media for us, the maintenance of our studio for us, that allows us to have a little bit more room to breathe too.
Yeah, for sure. And as creatives, do you ever find yourselves in like creative slumps or like creative blocks? And if so, how do you kind of push through that?
Always.
Yeah, I think right now, and I've spoken on this before, it's as a photographer, especially in the wedding industry, like this season right now, like that we're in right now, end of fall, we're getting right into our Christmas season. Weddings are just kind of wrapping up. So, we have this like mountain of editing to do. It's so easy to just kind of get in a creative slump, like especially towards the end, you're doing wedding or shoot after shoot. And it's really easy to just start to make things a little bit routine. So just learning how to switch things up, doing creative styled shoots, which we've started doing with the studio, which has been really awesome. So our social media team, she's been putting creative shoots together, which has been really awesome and definitely helped my creativity as a photographer. But Hilary can speak on her.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time when you're feeling, just kind of that lack of creativity, you really do just need to take time for yourself to like be out in the world. I find I get inspired everything that's not my industry. So if I go and like go to a vintage market, I read a magazine, like a fashion magazine, and I'm seeing like what's kind of happening over here. Traveling is a passion of mine. Traveling and getting re-inspired that way. So I try to interject those little exciting moments that will just help me, even if it's like a, one night away somewhere locally, just to give a little bit of space to breathe. I find that always rejuvenates me creatively.
Yeah, love that. So can one of you tell us a little bit more about Park Hill Education and what motivated you guys to start this initiative?
Yeah, so Park Hill Education, we've started it because we realized as creatives ourselves that there was a bit of a gap in the education, at least on a local level. So I know, there's tons of photographers that are always running workshops online, but I find a lot of them are either in like the States, just like a little bit away from us. While I did participate in some of those, I always found it so much easier. I'm such a hands-on person. Like I loved being in person to learn. If I have a question, I want to be able to like ask that in real time.
Yeah.
guess and figure it out for myself. So that's kind of where that started. And we started doing photography 101 workshops, which has been awesome for, just entry level basic photography. And then from there, we've started to grow into Park Hill education and expanded into photography as well as, installations and floral design and things like that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've also started to come up with the concept of coming away for a day with the retreats. So we have another one coming up in the spring at Crookston Park, which is a stunning venue just 6 minutes away from us here in Cambridge. But it's essentially an immersive day or an overnight stay. So people can really come in to this amazing retreat that we've curated with all of the details for you and really kind of get that creativity back through attending this. And then also build a really wicked portfolio piece too.
Yeah, that's so cool. How many people usually come on like the retreats?
We keep the size actually very limited because we don't want it to be too overcrowded. So anywhere from like 5 to 10 is our
Yeah, love that. And could you share a bit more about the 2025 workshops that you're going to be having?
Yeah. So we have Photography 101 again running in January. And we're also going to couple that with an installation workshop as well that I'll be leading in our studio here. And then we will also be doing a workshop in the spring at Crookston. And then we have a couple other ones planned for the year. I think Photography 102.
Yeah. Photography 102 is definitely coming, which will just expand on Photography 101, obviously. And then the Crookston Park retreat will go even more beyond that. And so anyone that's kind of just starting out can hop in 101, they can hop in 102, and then just in time for Crookston Park to build a really awesome portfolio.
Love that. And how do you both, whether it's this business together or your separate businesses, kind of promote and market yourselves? What have you seen work best?
Well, we hired a marketing team.
Yes.
Honestly, our marketing team is the best. Silvana from the Branders brand. She handles it all for us, and she uses a combination of social media as well as our website, events, yeah, that type of thing, kind of across the different realms.
Yeah.
Awesome. So if there's any creatives listening to this right now, what advice would you give to them if they want to launch their own business or potentially collaborate with a friend for a business?
I am always the one to say go for it. Like you don't know until you try. And just because you try once doesn't mean that you failed. Like just keep going. And certainly like if you are ever interested in getting some feedback, like I always say, reach out to someone you know that you aspire to be like in terms of things. And just ask them, like, can I take you for a coffee? Can I pick your brain? Get some insight into what it's really like to be in the industry. Because as I learned in fashion, it wasn't where I wanted to be, but then I found my way to the right place.
Yeah, love that. So the last part of our podcast, I asked people on Instagram to ask you questions, and I picked 3 of my favorite ones. So the first one is, what's one piece of advice you wish you'd known at the beginning of your individual careers?
I wish I knew how to get support, which I think is now why we're so passionate about the education side of things. And we love sharing our knowledge because at the end of the day, we think that community is way better than the competition. And that's something I stand by because I think at the beginning I was so intimidated and it's so easy to, imposter syndrome is real. So I would have known that there are people out there that are willing to help. And I felt so alone in the beginning trying to build my business and build my brand and try to figure out how to do photography. And, you're watching YouTube videos, you're trying to figure it out. But I had both of us, with this business, with our personal businesses, had to learn so much on our own. And I just wish that I would have reached out to more people.
Yeah, I feel like I would probably echo the same. I think in the beginning, again, like I go back and forth. I don't regret doing things the way I did it because I learned a lot. But because I just dove right into starting my business. I didn't go full time right away, much like Tiffany. I side hustled it for a while, but definitely didn't reach out to as many resources as I think I could have or should have, so that I would have grown faster, especially on the business side of things. It's one thing to be able to put a bouquet together and do that well, but to actually know what to price it, how to market, how to, get clients, all of that stuff. I was just kind of fumbling around and seeing if it worked. And I think if I reached out to more people, that would have been a little bit smoother.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I agree 100%. The next question is, are workshops good substitutions to going back to college?
I would say yes. I don't think that. So, I mean, I have a full university degree that I'm obviously not using right now. And I don't think that it's necessarily a bad thing to have, even if it's in your industry, like even if I
Yeah.
ended up photography background in college. However, I don't think necessarily I would have gotten where I am any faster or I still got here without that
Yeah.
formal education in this. And I think that just learning how, reaching out to people that are in the industry right now and doing those workshops is going to get you there just as fast because they're already doing it. That, it's more like on the ground, hands-on experience versus just learning like the theory behind things.
Yeah, I think that's the difference with especially creative industries is that this is truly a hands-on industry. And so if you're stuck in a classroom and you pay a lot of money to be in a classroom too, and it takes a lot of time. If you're not going into a career path that needs that degree, so if you're not a lawyer, a doctor, an accountant, or an engineer, I think going directly to the source, learning from the people directly who are doing it, getting your feet wet right away will actually make you grow so much quicker. And definitely jobs would help.
Yeah, I agree. As myself too, like as a creative, I do have a university degree, but it was all like theory and like, some stuff I didn't know, but like a lot of it I feel like I already did know. And then like doing things hands-on is when I actually like learned more because again, like you were saying at the beginning, like you're more like a visual learner and stuff. Like I'm the same way. Like I can see someone doing something online on like a Zoom class or like whatever, and it won't like retain in my head as much as like if I'm seeing it like right in front of my eyes.
Exactly. I'm the same way. And I always found too in like a big classroom setting, like I mean, I'm sure if you went to university, it's the same. You sit in a classroom with like some of my 101 classes were like 150 people.
Yeah.
And it's like you don't even get that opportunity to like ask a question if you have a question. Whereas if you're at like a workshop with like 10 to 15 people, it's so much more one-on-one and you're just going to learn so much quicker.
So much more intimate. You can get involved. You can ask those questions directly, get help.
Yeah. And as someone like I'm like more introverted, so like I would never want to ask a question in front of like 150 people versus like if there's only 10 people, I'd be more inclined to like actually ask it.
Exactly.
And then the last question is, what's your favorite self-care activity?
I'm a sucker for a massage, honestly.
Oh, yes.
Give me a good massage, cozy robe, and that's my go-to.
Love that.
Mine would be just going on a walk with my dogs and my husband's.
Love that. What kind of dogs do you have?
I have 2 Chihuahuas.
Oh, so cute, so small. Well, yeah, that's all I had for you today. So thank you so much again for coming on and sharing all this with us. Before you leave, do you want to shout out any of your socials, where people can find you, where they can work with you?
Yeah, so on Instagram, we're Park Hill Studios, and our website is parkhillstudios.ca. Between those two, you can pretty much find everything there. Our Instagram and our website both link to our calendar, which has information for when all of our workshops are happening. You can go on there and sign up already for some of them. And then also, we do have a link in our Instagram bio for anyone that signs up. All you need to do is basically just sign up to our emailing list. You'll get 10% off of any future workshops. So if you're wanting to do a workshop, whether it's floral related, installation related, or photography, just pop your email in there and you'll be sent some information for 10% off our next workshop or whatever workshop you're wanting to do, I guess.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for coming on.
Thanks for
Thank you for
having
having us.